Could 3-point dunks save us? Save us from the sameness, the redundancy of rims and threes. Dan, this is an interesting topic. Hoop idea, what we used to do early age NBA Twitter, where we come up with a way to fix the NBA. I haven't really done that in a while, and this story is my attempt to address one of the more fascinating ideas from Fox Sports 1's Nick Wright, who wasn't as excited about watching the NBA this season. He calls himself, a super fan in the NBA, and wasn't super excited because of the fact that he thinks there's too many threes in the NBA. Too many.
Very familiar opinion, yeah.
It is not, he's not the first person to say this. I think Charles Barkley has probably said it a billion times, but the idea is, all right, if we do see the ratings tumble a little bit this season, whether that's due to, a presidential election, or the NFL is killing it, or the WNBA is killing it, or whatever. Question is, how do we drive down the number of three-pointers if we do believe that it is not good for the game? One of his ideas was really interesting. The idea of having a 3-point dunk. Essentially, we need to incentivize Anthony Edwards dunking on dudes like Domantas Sabonis last week. We need to incentivize Ja Morant to do it. Russell Westbrook, whether he can do it still at this age or not, it is interesting that he's decided to shoot more threes and not go at the rim as much. And that to me is indicative of a larger problem of this kind of homogenous playing style where the Boston Celtics win the NBA title by going 5 and out, doing driving kicks and trying to get layups or kick out for 3-pointers. And they have those perimeter players anchored there. Kristaps, Drew, Derek, Jason, and Jalen all just anchored around the 3-point line. And Nick Wright's idea is just, hey, let's make dunks worth 3 points. So first blush, Dan, what are your thoughts on the idea of dunks, the high-flying acrobatics being incentivized by rewarding them not just with 2 points, but with 3?
So generally, I mean, the problem this is trying to solve is that they're any sober analyst is going to be like, well, 3 is not just worth more than 2, it's worth 1.5 of 2. And so, of course, it makes more sense to try to get those as often as you can. So if you change the scoring system to dunks are worth 3 and, threes are worth 4, or dunks are worth 3 and threes are worth 3, you've leveled out the incentive structure and said, it makes more sense for you to try to do the more exciting play than other kinds of plays. And I'm I will admit I've always been, I felt dumb about hoop idea stuff. I am not a big picture thinker about these sorts of things where I'm well, clearly the answer to every problem is there needs to be 9 different divisions that are all regionally based, and we seed everybody into pods, and everybody plays one another 1.3 times, and that's how we arrive at the most balanced schedule. I'm stupid about that stuff. I'm there's 82 games and there's 48 minutes, and we play the way we play, and sometimes people score more or less and things change. But I get the idea, I get the premise of it. If it means more dunking, I'm not going to sit here and say that's bad. I guess if we the only thing I would want is if we're going to do that and make dunks worth 3, let's stop doing things like dunk score, where we're evaluating with analytics whether dunks are cool.
No, we need dunk score. It's just a place to argue about whether that dunk was good or not.
All right, but you know what? We can argue. This is dancing about architecture. No, we don't need to say to 3 decimal points whether Trey Mann's dunk was good. It was good. Trust me, because I watched it. In any event, I think, generally speaking, making dunks worth more points sounds like a good idea. I'm guessing everybody agrees with this.
No.
What?
I don't actually agree with this. Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's getting at the right idea, which is how do we create more shot diversity? How do we incentivize really cool plays in the league? However, I do think that the problem we have is not being solved by the advent of a 3-point dunk. And here's what I mean. I think what we're missing is the mid-range game. The nostalgia is one thing of you and I grew up watching Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, just owning that mid-range area, the fadeaways, the game winners, all of that, we harken back to our childhoods. And of course, that dopamine hit, we're not getting that every time we watch the Boston Celtics launch 62 3-pointers. And then the Charlotte Hornets, who's coached by Charles Lee, who was the deputy under Joe Mazzulla last year, is now launching at a ridiculous rate with the Charlotte Hornets. It's becoming this homogenous thing where it's dunks and threes and free throws, right? They just want to keep attacking the rim and shooting threes, and that whole mid-range game is gone. I talked to Nick Elam for the story of the Elam ending. The Ball State professor who invented the Elam ending, which is the target score to end games. I'm a huge fan of the Elam ending, and I wanted to pick his brain. I was like, what do you think about the 3-point dunk rule? And he's like, conceptually I like it, but it's not addressing the shot desert problem. The shot desert problem.
Follow-up question. What is the shot desert problem, Tom?
Well, young Danny boy, I've got a great answer for you. Thank you for raising your hand and asking that question.
That sent a chill up my spine. I hope we
young
never
Danny
do that again. All right, yes. Shot deserts, hit me.
Shot desert is when an entire game happens and one of the teams does not score from the mid-range area. No points scored in the mid-range area. And I was curious if that had ever happened this year. Turns out it's happened 24 times, Dan.
Jeez, okay. That is a lot more than I would have expected.
24 times this year that a team has not even scored, not even tried, not even made an imprint on that huge area of the floor outside the paint and inside the 3-point arc. And in 2011, there were 0 such games. And we've already had 24, and we're on pace for 136, which is a huge increase from last year where there's 80 desert games in the entire season, and we're a quarter of the way there already, and we haven't even hit Thanksgiving. So, Dan, I think that's the problem. I think we need more shot diversity, more unpredictability. When you get run off the line, are you going to pull up for an open mid-range jumper? No, you're going straight to the basket and then kicking out if you don't have a layup and then doing it all over again. And it reminds me in baseball when a guy would hit the ball up the middle and you'd be excited and you're like, yay, we got a hit. Mets just got a hit, or the Red Sox just got a hit. And then the shift, they like outsmarted baseball. They solved baseball and they're like, oh, we're going to put our fielders over here.
Yeah.
And that shot up the middle is no longer going to be a hit. And like, it's kind of a bummer when you're watching the game that you have to recalibrate in ball hits. Bad balls in play are no longer, worth going for. We're going to go through 3 true outcomes, right. Strikeouts, walks, home runs, and you lose a little bit. And I think we're losing a little bit with the shot deserts, where, as Nick Elam termed it, we're just not using this giant area of the floor. And so I think, how do we get that? I have an idea. What if, Dan, and I know you already said this stuff hurts your brain to think about, but idea...
I like learning new things. I like entertaining new ideas. I just bad at generating them, but you have one. I'm here. I'm wrapped.
What if we shorten the 3-point line and add a 4-point line? So it's 2, 3, 4. And the mid-range game is now going to be incentivized by making that area of the floor, 15 feet and beyond, is worth 3 points. And then at 35 feet and beyond is worth 4 points. Because what we're having right now is that shot desert where huge areas of the floor are not being used. And if we shorten the 3-point line, I think people are saying, why don't we extend the 3-point line? Make it 40 feet. Well, then I think the shot desert expands. I think you're going to see even more of that area not being used, because then everyone's going to go to that 4-point line or that that extended 3-point line. So I say shorten the 3-point line at 15 feet and then add the 4-point line so we still get those crazy 4-point, those crazy logo threes are now going to be 4s. And we get more shot diversity. It's going to recalibrate how defenses play. And when you get run off the 4-point line, you can go to a 3 or you can go to the rim. And that, I think, is going to add more play-to-play excitement than what we have right now.
And also just, quick looking at our through StatHead at the shot finder there, no player has taken more than 4 shots from beyond 35 feet so far this season. So like if you're talking about volume, that's like it immediately addresses some of that concern. Because my first thought was like if you make a 4-point line and people are like, well, it's double too, it's still like the incentive structure is still there, but making a 35-footer is really freaking hard. And like maybe in 15, 20 years with the way skill development works, players will become automatic from there too. But you're right. It does increase the likelihood of more shots coming from more places on the floor, more ways to skin the cat, like we were talking about, and then more the way you can scheme up looks or the way you can, draw up sets to try to maximize or leverage different areas. I think it's an interesting plan. I don't know if it gets us more dunks. And if the goal is to get us more dunks, I don't know that necessarily solves the problem.
Well, I want to address that.
Okay.
I don't think we want to incentivize more dunks by adding a 3-point dunk because of the injury risk. I think what you saw with Chet Holmgren when Andrew Wiggins took off and was like, I'm going to yam on this dude. And then Chet Holmgren went up and collided midair, broke his hip, and he's out for 2 months. That stuff happens more than we think because of collisions in the air. And if we're incentivizing guys from going up and trying to dunk on everybody, what you're also going to get is a lot of defenders. They're going to go way out of their way to prevent that from happening and going crazy. We're going to get a lot of those train wrecks at the top of the summit. And I'm worried about what that does for a league that is already dealing with the crisis of stars missing huge swaths of the schedule. And we're just now learning Luka Doncic is out for at least a week with a wrist injury. So there's another star that we're missing. And I feel like if we make 3-point dunks a real thing, we're going to see a lot more players like Anthony Edwards. He actually missed 2 games last year because of a hip injury from falling after a dunk attempt. Zion Williamson, like the dude loves dunking more than anything on this planet, and he can't stay healthy. So maybe that would be a cure that is actually worse than the disease. If we incentivize more dunks, I feel like that will create a lot more injuries. I might be wrong about that, but damn, that's why you should go read it. Those listening, read the story, because like I'm still on the fence here. Like I think it's interesting, the idea of a 3-point dunk, but I think there's some negative externalities that go associated with that. And I think the answer, while I'm okay with the idea of the getting rid of the corner 3, I hear the idea of just make all 2s 3s and all 3s 4s to lower the premium on those long distance shots. But I think the best answer is a 2-3-4.